to my cloud computing series, and today I'll be looking at the next part in my introduction to cloud computing, where I'll be talking about Amazon EC2. So in my last part, part 2, I spoke about virtualization and how it's a process or technology as well of making a software version of a computing resource, whether it's a compute uh, compute capability, functionality, or storage, networking, servers, applications. So this technology has been around for quite a few years now, almost decades, well, really decades. And what I wanted to speak to you about today is to help increase our understanding, deepen understanding of the technology itself. So I wanted to focus on the Amazon server technology, the Amazon EC2 technology. So EC2 itself is a strange acronym, I suppose. Is it EC squared? Is it EC2? Why is it called EC2? Well, EC2 is short for ECC, and each of the letters in the acronym have a meaning. So E is elastic, C is compute, and the other C, the last C, is cloud. So we'll see this this naming convention adopted with Amazon technologies. So it's something we'll have to get used to, I suppose. And what does Amazon mean by the term elastic? Well, by this they mean that just pretty much if you think of a rubber band where you can make it longer and then let go and it becomes shorter, you can increase or decrease number of servers or instances, as Amazon likes to call it. You can increase or decrease the number of servers automatically based on the load on the applications. So what I mean here is that the Amazon EC2 have parameters in place that allows the system to monitor the load that it's receiving from the internet, um, and based on those parameters, based on the parameters you set as part of configuring the EC2, you can say that okay, if the load increases, the number of transactions are increasing, then I need to make another server and then distribute the load amongst the two servers which would be there. And like that, you can increase to 3 servers and distribute the load amongst 3 servers. And you can do this on as a kind of configurable parameter for EC2 itself. So in that way, you increase the number of servers. And similarly, as the load decreases, you can say, okay, remove one server. I only need 2 or 3. And if it goes down even more, remove it again. I only need 1. And the whole idea here is that the pay-as-you-go feature, where you're only paying for the servers that you need at any given point in time. Compute. So the first C is compute. So here it's where we're executing programs, we're running applications, and this is normally we use servers for that, um, and that's really the compute part of the acronym. And finally, cloud. Well, it's all hosted in the cloud. It's not on premise. So this is the term EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud. So it allows you to increase or decrease the number of servers that you're using. It's compute in the sense that you can run programs on it. It's not storage. It's not a database. It's actually the computing power that you need to run applications. And finally, it's not on-premise, it's hosted in the cloud, which you would expect as we're talking about cloud computing. So we've used the term EC2, we've used the term servers, we've used the terms instances. So the virtual servers in the cloud are able to increase or decrease, as we mentioned before. And what I think we need to appreciate here is that Amazon doesn't really use the term servers. They prefer to use the word instances. They try and move away from that term servers, partly because servers, I think, has the idea of a physical machine. Instances are more like a virtual concept. So as with as with servers, so instances are virtual servers that can run applications. They have many possible hardware and software configurations. I put hardware in quotes there because it's all virtual. As you know, it's not you're specifying a virtual machine that will have a particular hardware setup, and that will give you the level of performance that you need. But it's all virtual, it's all in software anyway. And as I mentioned, it's pay as you go. You're only paying for what is running, and this is where the the feature of being able to increase or decrease servers really is a very powerful feature of the EC2 technology. And as we discussed in part 1, EC2 instances can be all over the world. So as part of your setup, you can choose which region, which geography you want to have your EC2 instance running in. And there's a huge amount of information on EC2, and that's available at the EC2 website, aws.amazon.com/EC2. So for now, what I'll do is, I think it's enough of theory, and what I'll take you through is a short demo where I make a new EC2 instance. I'm logged into the AWS console, and you'll get a screen that looks like this. So we'll start with launching a virtual machine with EC2 as per here. Okay, so this is pretty much how we start. Clicking on this, and the first step here that you see is that you have to choose an Amazon machine image. What's a machine image? Well, it's a software configuration. So your operating system, your application server, applications, and various software packages that you need for your virtual machine, for your EC2 instance. If we just spend a few minutes just exploring this a bit more, yeah, I think you'll get a better picture of what's involved here. So the Amazon Machine Image, AMI, you have many examples of these, and this one has 40 AMIs in this section under the quick start. And just looking at this AMI, you can see that it has the support in the package in it. It's got Linux, and it has various software packages, GCC, binutils, and these are the packages that come with the Linux installation. And this one is a different Linux AMI, and it has command line tools for AWS built in. It also has various development languages, Python, Ruby, Perl, Java, and repositories like Docker, as well. So you can see here that this comes out of the box with these tools, with the operating system, and it helps you get up to speed very quickly. And let's just have a look at my AMI. So here it's empty at the moment, but effectively what it means that you can create your own machine images as you do your work, and you get to a point where you think, okay, this should be a machine image that would save me hours of setup, installation. If instead of having to do it from scratch every time, you just make a image of that EC2 instance, and you're ready to go next time within uh, with a very small lead time. Otherwise, if you go start from scratch every time, it can take days, even hours, days, just to get it up to the basic configuration that you need. So that would be why you'd want to save your own machine images. But also, if you want to um, share it with the community, you have a community images here that you can share that others have um, donated on the community AMIs. So you can see here there are a lot of them are Linux based because they're free, and you can have setups. So coming back to the AMIs, we're talking about the community AMIs, which are shared by members of the Amazon community, and you can see there's 54,000 AMIs there, and anything from Linux, I can see Windows, many different combinations of software configurations. And of course, then you have the Amazon marketplace where you can buy software that runs on the EC2 as an EC2 instance, and you can buy it from third-party vendors. So you can see here that it's a huge area, many different configurations depending on what you're trying to achieve. But for the demo here, we'll keep it to the quick start one, and we select the free tier that's eligible, free tier eligible one. So let's select the Linux 2 AMI and just proceed to the next one. And here now we're choosing the instant type, which is the hardware quotes in quotes that we were discussing earlier. So we can choose the free tier one again, and this is a T2 micro instance. It talks about T2 instance provide baseline level CPU performance with ability to burst above the baseline, and you have your credits that would allow you to do that. Again, each particular type has its pros and cons, and you can see here you're choosing how many CPUs, you can choose the memory, the storage that you're using. Is this one can work with only with the EBS storage, which is the Elastic Block Store. We'll cover that in other videos, and it talks about the performance, but you can see there is the kind of hardware choice that we're choosing here. So you can see from this that the selected one is one CPU, 2.5 gigahertz, Intel Xeon, 1 gigabyte memory, and EBS. And again, this is all virtual. So it's quite amazing how they've been able to even um, provide you virtual CPUs that behave exactly like the Intel Xeon family. So let's move on to the next one, and these are the instant details. Again, for this demo, we'll just keep the defaults, where there's a lot of detail on the various parameters here. And just one I'd like to touch on is the number of instances. And you can see here we were focusing on one, but actually you can launch multiple instances at this from the same AMI. So when we said we could have 2 or 3, and when we launch it, the 2 or 3 would start up straight away. Um, the auto scaling group, this is very interesting. This is what we were discussing earlier on about the elasticity, the elastic term used, the word used in EC2. And here we can see that it talks about how we can set up policies to automatically scale a number of instances in the group. So scaling, which means it can go more or even less, depending on the policies we set up. It can be set up automatically. It can automatically increase or decrease the number of instances. So let's move on to the next step. And here we're adding the storage. You can add volume, but we'll stick with the basic storage here that comes by default. Again, many options on each area of the storage. This storage here will be in gigabytes here, 8 gigabytes. And finally, we add some tags. The tag is good to use for naming your instance. Otherwise, we'll have a long ID that doesn't really make any sense. If I add a tag here, name the key, call the key name, and give a value of first demo instance, and we can see here then that will become a tag that will be associated with this particular instance. And the security group here is the firewall rules that control the traffic to and from the instance that we're setting up. At the moment, we'll just leave it wide open, even though you'll have some warnings about that. But obviously, for depending on what you want to do, then you'll be setting some firewalls here. Just move to review and launch, and you see a few options here, a few warnings, sorry, here, and because we've left it open. So this just goes through the various details we've selected. And let's move on to launching this instance. We'll just click the button launch here, and we want to now create a key pair. So the idea is here that the key pair is the only way that you can communicate with the new instance. So you can choose an existing key pair, or you can create a new key pair. And really what we'll do here is we'll try and create a new key pair, and then so that you can get a good idea of how things are used. So if I just call the key pair my name here, I'll download that key pair. So I'm saving that to my downloads directory, and now I'll launch the instance. So that's now being launched. To see the actual instance, this is the ID I was talking about earlier on. It's very cryptic. It doesn't really mean anything. It's an internal ID number, but we can use that for the moment. And here now we can see our instance actually is already running, and this is now we can see here my first demo instance, the tag there that we added early on. So now we have the instance running. We want to connect to it, and let's see how to connect. And the way to connect is nicely provided by Amazon. They give you the complete instructions here. So what we'll do is we'll open a terminal window, and then we'll change the permissions on the private key that we just downloaded, and then we'll connect to it using SSH, using this command. So let's go ahead and do that. And if I just show you here, so I need to go to the downloads directory, and from there I'll change the permissions on the file, the private key, and then finally now I can connect to the server, the EC2 instance itself, and do that, and we just need to add this, and there we are. So now you can see we're actually connected to the EC2 instance, and probably there's no file there, but I can put a file there. This is a test and file, and then if I select it, there's your file there. If I run the command to see the hardware, the disk space we have, and you can see there's your various directories, and then we have our disk space that we saw early on when we're going to the storage step. Just to show you, I'll start a ping operation here to, let's say, the BBC website, or let's ping Google, shall we say, ping Google, and then I'll just want to demonstrate what is what I'll demonstrate here is actually stopping and starting, and you'll see this actually stopping to prove that actually something has happened. So this is running at the moment, and there's your IP address, and you notice the IP address is very similar. It's actually the DNS name has the IP address there in it as well. So let's now stop this instance, and I'll stop this here. Now the instance is stopping, and you'll see here that while it was pinging away to Google, and then all of a sudden now it stopped. If I try to reconnect, it won't connect because my instance is actually stopped. So I expect this to time out, and sure enough, it times out there. So we stopped it, and sure enough, we can no longer connect to this EC2 instance. So now let me try and restart it, and we do that simply by doing start, and now it's starting up again, and soon, and then we can connect again, and just to prove the point that we are actually working with the Amazon EC2 instance. And one thing we'll notice here is when it starts up, I can't use the old command to connect to it, and the reason being will be, you'll notice here that now the IP address is different. So remember I said early on that the DNS included the IP address in there. So if we go to the terminal and we click on the last command I use, you see here the actual DNS name had the IP address in it, and it was 35.178.198.221, but now it's a different IP address. Why? Because we've restarted it and it's just chosen the next available one. And so we can't connect to this. So even if I try to connect to this now, it will still fail because it's not at this IP address anymore. So to connect, I'll have to use the correct string, which will be this one. Same private key, same user, but the DNS name is different now. So let me just copy this while that other one is going to time out anyway. Let's see now, should timeout any minute now, and then I'll connect to that one. Remember, you have to be in the same directory as your private key. I'm sure there's ways to refer to it from a central location as well, but let's just see. It's taking some time here. Let me just see. I can start another terminal window anyway if I want to. Let's just make a new one, and I'll go to the downloads directory again, and okay, now it's timed out. All right, so let's carry on here. We'll paste our command with a new IP address, and again we have to add it there, and there we are, and we're in again in the Linux 2 AMI and Amazon EC2. So a quick demo showing you how easy it is to set up an EC2 instance. There are so many parameters, as you can see, and options, whether it's to do with the AMI instance, the Amazon machine image itself. There's a huge variety of images depending on what you want to do, and then you have your hardware. Again, many options based on what kind of performance you want, whether it's down to the storage, whether it's down to the memory, whether down to the computing power. And again, you have your storage, and every step there are many points, many configuration possibilities there. But in a nutshell, it is very easy to default and then go for the default. But again, as I mentioned early on with the image, once we've got the right image set up, once we've got the right image and the configuration set up, we can make that into an image, and then we can have that as a configuration for future setups. And we'll cover more details about the EC2 instances, but just to give you a taster here, you can think about that while we're doing this manually, it would be quite interesting if we can even automate the actual setup itself. And there are scripts that allow you to make all these choices as part of a script, and that's called infrastructure as code. But again, all this will be coming in my future videos. It's just a taste of what's coming, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll keep you posted on next videos that are to come in this series. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.